Little details in video games can take on a life of their own once they're put in the hands of players. As fans go through their favourite titles with fine-tooth combs, filling in the blanks and following the breadcrumbs that developers have peppered throughout, various airtight theories can not only form, but they have the potential to transform a game's story into something much more thought-provoking than it had any right to ever be. Because whether or not the developers intended for certain moments to be analysed so deeply, a given story can change once thousands of players and fans begin to unpack it. Yeah, there's probably going to be some confirmation bias that makes these theories work better than they do under scrutiny, but it's still exciting to debate them nonetheless. In fact, when fans come up with theories that are better than the plot we actually got, they can sometimes save a title from being a complete disaster. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 video game fan theories better than the story we got. Number 8. Dead Space's necromorphs are a disease. In the Dead Space series, supernatural markers, ancient alien artifacts that lead to outbreaks of vicious necromorphs, are responsible for driving the human population mad through mind control while spreading their alien scourge across the galaxy. However, one fan theory from Escapulius on Reddit explains that these markers could serve a completely different purpose, namely, they're a distraction. It's theorized that the necromorphs were genetically engineered by other beings, spread like a virus that incubates in the nooks and crannies of an environment and infects and takes over a host's body. Consequently, they should be treated the same way as any other biohazard outbreak, by locating and eradicating the source of the infection. The markers are there to make sure that doesn't happen, however, and the hallucinations and seemingly paranormal properties linked with these artifacts entwine victims into a fantastical supernatural conspiracy to keep them from logically dealing with the outbreak. In reality, it's just the viral infection messing with the host's brain that causes such anarchy. But while the humans are preoccupied with getting to the bottom of the supernatural markers, the virus can go unchecked and wipe out most of the population. There's no indication of who or what constructed these things in the first place, but it's argued that they were placed as traps for sentient species to stumble upon and to consequently never pose a threat to the perpetrators. Number 7. The Guardians are really the darkness. Destiny. The original Destiny had a rather bog-standard plot, with the player being one of the many Guardians raised from the dead by a mysterious object known as the Traveler to face off against the darkness. Yeah, it's as pretty rudimentary as it sounds. However, one theory collected by Paul Tassi over at Forbes, which again spawned on Reddit, spins this basic premise on its head, instead claiming that the Guardians are actually unwillingly aiding the darkness to exterminate every source of life across the galaxy. Reborn to do the bidding of an evil entity and act as a murderous puppet, the idea is that you are unwittingly spending the entirety of Destiny contributing to the extinction event you're supposed to be stopping. The origin of the Guardians is kept vague in the game, but one line is pointed to that seemingly supports the Guardians being the villains the whole time. Quote, "The ghost said to me, 'You are a dead thing made by a dead power in the shape of the dead. All you will ever do is kill. You do not belong here. This is a place of life.'" End quote. Combine this with the sinister titles of the Guardian classes, being able to wield darkness-infused weapons, and the vague original plot in general, and it's easy to see how the lines between good and evil could have been blurred. Of course, this was never mentioned in Destiny 2, but it's still a cool interpretation nonetheless. Number 6. Bloodborne is set after Dark Souls. Although it's been repeatedly stated that there's no direct connection between Bloodborne and the Souls series, one major detail discovered in a thread on the Bloodborne Reddit started by Noondozer seems to link the two franchises together. In the background of Bloodborne's Hunter's Dream, the hub world where you can upgrade your weapons and your character, you can clearly see an endless mass of pillar-like trees venturing out into the distance, cut off at the top and the bottom with no stumps or branches. While this could just be a random detail to emphasize the unreality of the location, this visual motif is actually present throughout the Souls series as well, showing up primarily in Dark Souls 2 with great significance. Here, giant, incomplete beam-like trees act as symbols of the decaying world of the Fire Rage, showcasing the toll that the years have had on this scorched and ravished earth. If this is them showing up in a petrified state in Bloodborne, then it could suggest that the game actually takes place within the Souls universe, potentially being the age that rose from the ashes following Dark Souls 3. Number 5, the conversations with the cop in Max Payne 3 are all in Max's head. Throughout Max Payne 3, you can stumble across an unlikely ex-cop, Anders Delty, who repeatedly finds himself caught up in the crossfire of your murderous rescue mission. Disregarding the gunfire heading in your direction, you can take the time to catch up with Anders whenever he pops up, as he discusses his idyllic family life that seems far removed from the tense situations he's prone to finding himself in. But Anders' strange placement throughout the game has actually been explained as the character being nothing more than a figment of Max's imagination. This theory was circled around forums at the time of release, such as by Ryan0991 over at GameFAQs, which claimed Anders is what Max thinks he would have become if he wasn't consumed by his own boozing, self-loathing, and lust for revenge. A beat cop with a white picket fence life and retirement around the corner. It all sounds like everything Max was headed towards before his family was tragically taken from him. Brilliantly, it elevates these strange moments in the game to be more than just quick doses of comic relief, and adds another element of tragedy to Max's character by showing how fractured his psyche still is after all these years. Number 4, Mass Effect 3's indoctrination theory. The ending of Mass Effect 3 will go down in history as one of gaming's most divisive moments. But in between the controversy and backlash, the game also birthed one of the most popular fan theories of all time. Throughout the series, it was repeatedly emphasized that the closer you got to understanding the invading Reaper threat, the more you opened yourself up to being indoctrinated by their will, with most characters in the game connected to Reaper technology becoming nothing but mindless husks after prolonged exposure. With this in mind, it was argued that throughout Mass Effect 3, Commander Shepard was actually battling against his own indoctrination, reflected in repeated gameplay that had players chasing a child who Shepard couldn't save in an early mission, and whose likeness was later used as the manifestation of the commanding Reaper AI, with Dark Shadows reflecting the Reaper's influence growing in number every time this section appeared. This slow indoctrination process allegedly kicks in and knocks Shepard out when he gets blasted by a Reaper laser, with the many inconsistencies in the game's ending explained as all being part of Shepard's mind being tricked into accepting his new machine overlords. Number 3, Jason is turning into Vaas in Far Cry 3. When it first released, Far Cry 3 came under fire for being a great game with a rather daft story, playing up the white savior trope to the max and using it to excuse the otherwise jarring violence and action found in the open world title. But one detailed theory by YouTuber Ryan Hollinger adds a bit more depth to the game's otherwise lackluster hero, Jason Brody, explaining that both him and the game's excellent villain Vaas are cut from the same cloth. It's argued that symmetry and repetition are used constantly throughout the game, be that in visuals that evoke Rorschach tests or in actual gameplay segments that intentionally repeat themselves. I mean, for real, how many times does Vaas capture you only for you to escape once again over the course of Far Cry 3? It happens all the time, and these instances are intentionally implemented to highlight the duality between the title's hero and villain. To go even deeper, this theory suggests that the duality is used to show how Jason is actually following in Vaas's footsteps and becoming just like him. The theory concludes that Vaas was similar to Jason before he arrived on the island, and that the anarchy of these pirate-infested beaches was enough to turn him into the hardened killer he is today, a journey which Jason is doomed to repeat. Number 2, James kills his wife over and over again in Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2's ambiguous and metaphorical plot has resulted in plenty of deliciously dark fan theories over the years. For instance, did you hear the one about James having his dead wife's body in the trunk of his car the whole time? That is a personal favorite, but none have been quite as convincing as the theory posited on the True Gaming Reddit in 2013 that the game's monsters are all just manifestations of James's guilt over euthanizing his dying wife Mary. It's no secret that a lot of the enemies in the game are said to play on James's guilt over his suppressed desire to be with a healthy, attractive woman rather than his decrepit wife while she was still alive. It's why the demonic nurses in particular were weirdly sexualized, as they reflect the warped way James saw his attraction to the people who treated his wife, and his desire to be with them sexually as an abomination and immoral. That is well known, but this theory hypothesizes that the way these monsters take on feminine features makes each combat encounter a way for James to torture himself by having to relive the moment he murdered his wife, as he's forced to kill these creatures that are connected to the memory of Mary over and over again. Silent Hill 2 is full of creepy enemies and locations. In fact, we did a whole video exploring the significance of each one, but mostly they all boil down to the protagonist's tragic sexual hang-ups. Number 1. Metal Gear Solid 5's missing ending is the real Phantom Pain. While Metal Gear Solid 5 gained critical acclaim upon its release, the sequel, which promised to bridge the gap between the series' big boss prequel entries and the later Solid Snake saga, ended up disappointing fans thanks to a rushed and arguably unfinished ending. After a strong first act, the game's second chapter was full of repeated missions and a fractured storyline that ended with an out-of-nowhere twist. Fans left the game with a feeling that something was missing gnawing away at them, a worry which was seemingly confirmed when unfinished missions, cutscenes, and an entire third chapter were revealed online. However, instead of this missing content being put down to the title's extremely troubled development, fans question whether Kojima Productions were trying to instill their own Phantom Pain in players, aiming to make them feel the loss of a limb like Venom Snake himself. It kinda makes sense as well. The title's second half is all about unraveling everything that came before it, taking away Quiet as a companion, having Eli steal a Metal Gear, and crushing your dreams of Child Soldier Paz still being alive. All of this combined with an ending that just seemed to happen, and the refusal to answer the questions posed by the trailers, added to a collective Phantom Pain that everyone who played MGS5 had to deal with. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think about these fan theories down in the comments. And don't forget to check out where they originated from. Seriously, some of these are so detailed, and I couldn't put everything into this one video. And while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't, though, I've been Josh. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.